Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Before Sojo, the space it took to keep products on hand for as many houses as we have was crazy. Sojo eliminates that and allows us to utilize our space a whole lot better. I used to spend hours kitting amenities before we found Sojo. Having the right amenities for every reservation is crucial for the guest experience. Sojo has worked flawlessly so far. It has helped with the team tremendously because everything you need is all in one box. You just pick it up, drop it off, and assemble on site. These are real life testimonials from real life operators who are the decision makers within their company. All you have to do really is connect your calendar, choose your amenities that you want, and leave the rest to their automations. It's pretty simple, it's really easy, and it saves you a ton of time. So get with Sojo using the link in our show notes, or you can go to goodmorninghospitality.com/partners. Then of course use our link, and we would love to make sure that you guys are taken care of with our friends at Sojo. So make sure you connect with them today. And of course, like always, we are back to the episode. Good morning. How we doing?
It's best day of the week.
Michael, you are on mute. You're a professional podcaster and you muted yourself. What the heck?
I think that's twice in the past couple months that I've done that.
It's brutal.
Rookie mistake. But you guys keep beating me to my own punch of best day of the week. So I guess it's not mine anymore.
We've commandeered
Happy
it.
Monday. Well, I think Brandy is just jumping the gun. She's just like trying to cut us all out. She's like, Brandy rants to best day of the week.
Oh my God.
The good stuff. I love it. But good morning, Jeremy Weiss, all the way in Israel. Thanks for always tuning in on Monday and Wednesday. You guys are awesome. For all our live viewers, we love having you guys on. This episode is going to be fun, so we're going to keep the banter and the chit chat quick. Did you guys have a good weekend overall? Before we welcome on our guests to jump into short-term rental ownership and how they're setting up their whole structure with summer.
Yeah, well, I'm in New Orleans, so we had a great time with my grandmother's 90th. So it was a busy weekend, kind of playing tour guide.
Fun stuff. And Michael, you had a busy weekend, it looked like, too.
Yeah, Oliver has started riding horses, so it was very precious watching a little 4-year-old trot around on a horse.
Yeah, those pictures in the group chat, definitely super cute. Like he is just crushing it. He's crushing life. So
he's ready
outside
to be
of
the
that,
castle in England, trotting around.
You're just getting him ready for to take on the family business of castles. So should be a good time. Good heir to the throne. Well, I'm excited. We have a guest on the show today. His name is Paul. He's the founder and CEO of Summer. Not only that, but he comes with a pretty vast background with Airbnb and building out the Lux program and the product from them. So to hear from Airbnb to now entrepreneur and founder and the interesting business model that they have with Summer and how you can have fractional home ownership, yet also still getting into basically the, I guess, non-headaches of management of short-term rentals on that side as well. So I'm excited to welcome Paul, and let's bring him on. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Brandy, I heard your weekend in New Orleans sounds amazing. I hope my 90th is in New Orleans. Sounds like a great spot.
It was, honestly, and people just loved that we had this like multi-generational group of girls like getting down with grandma in the French Quarter. It was really fun.
Was grandma just hoofing it back and forth up and down Bourbon?
We did one block on Bourbon and she goes, "I've seen enough."
That's fair.
That's great.
I love it. Well, Paul, so let's, I did some extensive research, and shout out to Jamie Lane, who is also a monthly co-host on this podcast as well. But I got to listen to your episode with him on the SDR Data Lab, and he also kind of shared some notes with us behind the scenes too, which really helped. But let's jump in really quick. Give us some high level 30-second like overview of your background and kind of maybe the ideation of Summer, because you guys also just recently got to announce a fundraise. So let's do a little background and then we'll jump into that.
Yeah. Quickly, my background before starting Summer was really in finance, strategy, operations, M&A work, and then most recently product management. So I was at Airbnb for a few years, helping them initially through an M&A deal with a company they bought back in 2017 called Luxury Retreats, sort of a precursor for them building out the Airbnb Lux business, which I eventually transitioned into working in full time and taking on a role as a product lead there. Helping them build that business out for a number of years. It sort of led into Summer in many ways, right? I think one of the things I always noticed at Airbnb that you kind of even see them leaning into, and Brian's sort of delivering master classes every year now, and these Steve Jobs-esque product drops. But I think it's always interesting to follow along from the outside looking in, and I still keep in touch with a lot of people there, what's going on in the business, and you see them leaning into sort of the currents that Summer's really leaning into as well, with this newest announcement of like guest picks or these homes. People want basically the top 8% of hosts on Airbnb, Superhost, formerly Airbnb Plus, verified stays. Now it's the guest picks, right? People, they do 20% better on a nightly basis than the competition is the easy statistic. And when I was there, I would always kind of fall back on that and say to myself, well, if that's the case, then what else can Airbnb be doing to create more of that supply, right? Given that there's not a lot of it out there. There's a lot of articles about the Airbnb bust and the Airbnb apocalypse or whatever you want to call it, right? But it kind of speaks to whatever we're actually dreaming up here. It's a little harder than it looks, and I can tell you that from firsthand knowledge, as well as like seeing people do it and helping people do it, to just buy a home somewhere and like throw IKEA furniture in and actually like rent out enough money to cover your costs, right? I think that was a very 2021 thing. If you're going to make money in 2023, you've got to be a little bit better than that. And the average person who's looking to buy one of these homes, I could speak on behalf of our customers, like they don't have the time, the bandwidth, they need less risk. It's an outsized portion of their savings to go in, buy a home, put some money into it, try to rent it out, spend some time there, and then figure it out when you're not there. And you're a busy professional, maybe you got a family, maybe you got kids. And I was saying to myself, well, what if there's a rampway into getting more people into these homes and helping service the people who already own these homes by de-risking it and creating more of a network and a community around vacation home ownership and making this a really smart thing for a lot of people to do. I can't promise you that it's if you go to your financial advisor, it's going to be a better investment than investing in T-bills right now at 5%. But I think one of our early customers is a financial advisor, and he'll always tell me, he's saying, it's not about whether you invest in T-bills or not. It's you're making something that is also something I can spend time with my family and enjoy, make sense, and actually make me money, and that's a fun investment. So that's a little bit about us, and I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah. Could you kind of walk us through what the process, like I'm coming to you to buy a home. What does that process look like for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, again, we really try to de-risk the whole thing. We start with data and technology up front. That's, we raise some money, which we'll talk about soon enough. And that's a lot of where the OpCo dollars, as we say, goes. Dollars for headcount, dollars for hiring goes towards the technology we're building out. We really want to be sort of best in class on creating this Zestimate for short-term rental income. We work with AirDNA and others on this, and we've been able to put forth our own data on this. But you're coming to us and saying, hey, Summer, I want to buy a home in X market, or I'm looking for this, 3 bedrooms, Hudson Valley, let's say, or the Hamptons, whatever it may be. We're going to help you find that home, or we can underwrite and look at homes that you're curious in, et cetera. But we're going to co-shop together on finding you the right property. And what's different about finding a property with us versus just going out and doing it yourself is, we're giving you all the data before you even make a decision. I'm showing you, here are sort of the base, bull, and bear cases for how this home's going to perform in any given year. And I'm 99% positive this is what it's going to be. Not only that, I'm popping open the hood and sort of surfacing some cost level data and things like that. So you can really walk into this kind of knowing what you're getting yourself into. And this has proven to be really valuable for a lot of people. They're like, hey, you prevented me from buying this other one that was not going to make me any type of money. It was too far from the ski lifts, et cetera, right? We'll find you the right asset. You come in and you say, this is the one. You have, sort of two models to get you across the finish line here. The one we really like lean into that's a differentiator is this model called gradual ownership. Basically, I'm so confident in what we're doing on the data side up top of funnel and showing these numbers that I'll take the risk and buy the home for you. And that's what we raised our debt facility to do, to go out and buy this asset. You can put down as little as 15% with us. And you pay a flat monthly fee outside of that to be able to go to the home whenever you want to go with no blackout dates. So, you tell us I want, 30 days a year, 40 days a year, 50 days a year, whatever you'd like. Most of our customers kind of fall in the 30 to 90 bucket. You go whenever you want to go. You can go on 4th of July or Christmas or whatever. When you're not there, I rent it out on Airbnb, Vrbo, my own platform. You have up to 2 years to decide if you'd like to buy the home back from us using the upfront deposit that you gave us. And the monthly payments you've made along the way, we add those up and reduce the purchase price by that much. So the monthly payment's actually less than a mortgage and making you more principal and like actual equity, if you want to call it that, in the asset itself than buying it outright would do for you right now. If you don't want to buy the home, that's fine too. You can walk away at the end of 2 years with your deposit in full, no questions asked. We will, however, keep the entirety of your monthly payments because that's effectively rent at that point. We bought a home for you and now we're stuck with it and you're walking away from it. The crux of how that works for us though, is that during the period of time in which we own the home and you're sort of renting to own it here, we make the entirety of the short-term rental income. So I'm showing you every month, hey, Brandy, we just made 10K on your home. You should buy this home. You're enjoying it, theoretically going there. You're having memories with your family, all of that. And I think that's been sort of like the whole emphasis on de-risking this for a lot of people who are too busy or don't have the time, et cetera. I'm not just talking the talk. I'm actually walking the walk. Like I'll buy the home for you and show you how it's done. And then whenever you buy it back, and that could be any point, a month in, 6 months in, but up to 24 months in, then it switches to a revenue sharing agreement, traditional management service where, we take a portion of the top line and you continue to go whenever you want to go with no blackout dates. And that's the other model we really have at this point. A lot of people have started bringing their homes to us saying like, hey, I've got a 3% mortgage. I'm kind of locked in there. I don't want to sell this thing, but it seems like you're doing really well and getting really great yields on these homes. A lot of people are happy with your management, complete 5-star reviews, generating network effects of adding this to the Summer network. So a cool feature is whether you own the home or I own the home, you can stay across the entire network of Summer homes. So as more homes we get, the bigger the network gets, the better the homes get, the more locations you have access to. And it creates sort of more awareness for the brand and more yield for all of us. So it's kind of like a rising tides lifts all boats effect as well. So that's a little bit about how the business works.
So Paul, what are the limitations here on the high end and low end? So I assume the property first and foremost has to pencil. Otherwise you guys aren't buying it.
We're not buying it.
But do you have a minimum price, a maximum price? What if I said I want to buy 10 in the next year? Do you have a de-risking way per person, or does it not matter at all to you?
So I think I'll answer the last part first because I think it's an interesting answer. Yes, there are certainly savvy folks who I have a buddy actually who when I was initially pitching the business to him years ago, was like, hey, could I just buy like 10 of these and pick the one that does the best? We don't want to be enabling that, right? We do a soft credit pull up front. Clearly we want to understand. My goal as a company is not to own a bunch of short-term rentals in a hotel-esque way for 25 years. What we really want to do is get people into ownership and be the on-ramp. And once you're in it, be the best manager we can be, squeeze out the yield, get the profits for all of us and have the network. So we'll do a soft credit pull. We want to make sure you're actually not over leveraged and, can theoretically buy this thing back within a 2-year period. Right. And I think, putting down the 15, 20% upfront is sort of enough of a barrier, at least right now, that, it prevents enough bad actors from coming in and saying like, hey, I can just throw down 2% on 10 of these homes and, kind of game the system here. So we do kind of take some precautions up front there to make sure. The whole goal is to sort of get you onto your own path in home ownership. But the other, and to that note, by the way, I think there have been a fair amount of people who've gone with both. Like we've gotten a lot of people who have brought us a home. They're like, hey, I already own a home in the Poconos or in the Hamptons. Kind of bring it to you all for above market yield added to the network. And then the next one I want to do out in Tahoe, or wherever, I'm going to buy through the gradual model, right? So it kind of we want people to do more of these. On the other part of your question, there are limitations, and I think to your point, it's really around what pencils. No surprise, at 2% interest, more homes pencil than the interest rates of today. That's not to say that homes don't pencil, though. Clearly, there are still homes that pencil. We just have to be a little more diligent in our search. And we have to be sure that we're going to make the money on that, because that's telling you we're going to make the money on that and buying it myself. You can sort of think about the bandwidth being, it's very hard out there. And again, I worked on the Lux product, so I know this very well. There's a reason I didn't go into like $5 million homes on the short-term rental side. Like
Yep.
the TAM of that, I mean, they're beautiful experiences and they're great, but like I can tell you, we'd have like a multi-million-dollar home in Cabo that's like 8 bedrooms and rents for like $7,000 a night at an Airbnb Lux, and like you get like 6 bookings a year, and that's what's covering everything. And if some rich person decides they're not going to go to Cabo that year, like you're shit out of luck. You got to go somewhere else and figure it out. So we kind of cap ourselves, I'd say, depending on the market, around 2.5 million. It's just really hard to see something pencil outside of that in a lot of other markets. And those are more like the Hamptons and places like that, where that's kind of as crazy as it is, like not the top end of the market at 2 million.
And then multi-unit buildings and regulations. How do you approach those two things?
We do our homework before. We're certainly, we're a startup, so we want to stay nimble with things. You're not too rigid, in my mind, as long as it's legal to short-term rent there, and the home pencils, and we're not violating any HOAs or anything like that. We certainly will transact and dig in, but we dig in beforehand. Like when we present the homes and sort of the numbers to you, we'll say, hey, this one has some legality around this. We should just double check this, etc. But we'll operate anywhere. Short-term rentals are legal, and within the legal bounds of that, we apply for our permits. We do everything we need to do there.
I'm curious. So this is kind of maybe a two-parter question, or a longer way of asking, in the sense of you have two business models basically that complement each other, right? You have the buying asset where you taking on this debt facility to purchase a home and get people into ownership, and then you also have the management asset where you are operating them at either whatever capacity you can into the market. So let me ask you this question, because I've realized this with our business, managing short-term rentals, in the sense of the more spread out we are, the more like of a headache it is really for operations. I also believe in, like, probably from what I've seen on our P&Ls, just less profitable. It gets kind of crazy. So how do you guys decide, from outside of data and other things like that, and making sure that the property pencils with interest and all the other stuff? I'm just curious on picking the markets and making sure you're not so spread out that your operations side becomes a nightmare, and it's already a hard business. So I'm just curious on how you guys mitigate that.
Yeah, we've been able to do a really good job of that early days. I think that was one of the early proof points for us and our investors, was like, can you do that at some type of scale across different locations? We've certainly developed some density in some markets, but I think there's a natural sort of like balance within a business like this. Like, for example, in the debt facility you mentioned, like there are concentration limits where we can't be over indexed. And you can imagine the nightmare scenarios, like you buy like 200 homes in South Florida and a hurricane comes through, and like there's your entire business gone, right? So there needs to be some risk diversification across different areas and different geographies. Like I would advise anyone looking to get into asset management in some way, shape, or form to be pursuing that sort of strategy. But to your point, how do you sort of drive efficiencies and drive added revenue with some diversification? So we try to be intentional, right? Like we're not going to go enter a market unless we see a pathway towards, driving some type of density in the next like year or two. But we think there's two real things that can help us here. One is the network aspect, right? So what we've enabled with being able to stay across the network adds extra revenue and revenue channels that like wouldn't otherwise exist if we were just renting a home on Airbnb or Vrbo, etc. Around 40% of our current customer base has stayed in another summer home besides their own. The thing has been really cool to see. Like people are excited. If you ask any of our customers, like, what would you like summer to do better? They're like, more homes, different places, right? Like I had someone who's looking to buy with us here in New York. And they were talking to me initially about buying in Miami. They had 2 school-age kids. And then they realized like, hey, we're never going to get to Miami enough to make this thing worth our while. Let's just buy with you upstate, get 60 days a year, And of that 60 days, take like 2 weeks in one of your Miami properties. So I think that has been a way to sort of mitigate any of the cost differences, is by driving more in-network spend, which I think is a really creative way to do that. And then secondly, I think we tried to take a really discerning eye on the cost basis, right? Fortunately, we've been able to hire a really experienced team when it comes to like distributed hospitality and making sure these things pencil and work. We try to keep a tight rein on the budgets, whether it's like field budgets, whether it's HQ budgets, being very disciplined with some of that, setting aside cash that we need for the homes that are owned, and obviously trying to see around the corners when we're doing inspections and things like that. Things will always go wrong, but we just try to maintain a nice cost basis there.
Yeah, I as an operator, there's two things that struck me, like the geographic spread. I know that can be that's very difficult, and we're concentrated in two major markets in South Florida and New Orleans. But then, to your point, there have been times where we're getting hit across all fronts with hurricanes. So diversifying natural disasters is something that I think is worth considering.
Yeah, like we've got a lot of homes in upstate New York, for example. Like we're up this way, we've managed to get like a lot of density from like Western Mass all the way to Poconos and PA, and like spread throughout. And like you get 3 good seasons up there, and the only poor season, if you want to call it that, or average season, would be like mud season in like April or May. And I'm sitting down going over the numbers for the week, and I'm like, why we dipped this week a little bit? Oh yeah, we got a good healthy amount of the portfolio up there, right? Like, but that it speaks to the need for some distribution. Like you balance that out with great, winter months in other places, or you probably deal it in Miami in July and August.
Yep.
If you were renting up in other places, you'd be, sort of balancing that all year. I just think it requires a bit of portfolio construction and some foresight around that.
Definitely. Well,
Paul, as
ahead,
a first-time founder going out to fundraise in arguably the toughest fundraising environment in our generation, I guess a couple of things. How did you find it? Did you pull a lot from your existing networks? Did you just hustle and grind for the past couple of years? And then how are you positioning yourself to investors? Are you a finance company? Are you a property management company?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting the multiple that you want on valuation?
It's a really, really great question. So we raised our initial round at the end of 2021. So we caught the little wave of that year, which was I'm fortunate in the sense that we were able to do that then, because this is a capital intensive business to at least start off, right? You become more efficient as you scale, but you can't just go out and start a business like this with like $1 million even, or like 500 grand, like a little seed round getting off the ground. Like it takes more to that to sort of just get the initial inertia. So I feel fortunate. That being said, I can tell you right now, fundraising was a heck of a lot easier in 2021 than it was in 2023. You can't see me that well, but I got a lot more gray hair for this round. So we managed to catch the tail end of that, which I think gave us enough capital to get off the ground as things were starting to shift beneath us. And heading into 2023, we were now able to pull off our latest fundraise, which to answer one of your questions, I think was just a degree of there's obviously storytelling and metrics that you go into all of this. Like you have metrics but you also have a story and like the vision and what we're trying to be. I think when I went and talked to investors, I was fortunate enough to get support not only from all of my existing investors coming back into this fundraise, and one of them actually co-leading the fundraise, but also a brand new investors coming in as well, sort of to buoy that and give us even more proof points. Some companies you see right now are just kind of falling back on the existing to fortify the castle. I was actually able to get people from the outside interested in coming in to help grow this. And I think the big reason for that is really going in and saying like, the vision for this thing in the next 5 years is to be the complete vacation home, second home solution, right? It's a matter of like, what are the steps it takes to get there, right? And you hit it. It's like, are we a financing company? Yes. Are we a management company? Yeah. Are we a technology company? Yes, right? At the end of the day, we want to be providing an end user and end consumer value. Like I'm a product person at heart. I think about this from a consumer experience of like, what would I want if I were going out to buy one of these homes, or if I already own these homes? And they don't really care what team is doing what, or like the old adage of like shipping an org chart. They just care about like, are you able to find the right properties for me? And we're doing that through data. Are you able to help me finance them? or and if I already own it, are you able to help me manage it and get the most like juice out of the squeeze and create this community around it? At the end of the day, the answer is yes, and that's what I want to be known for. 4 years from now, it's just a matter of what's the ordering in which we build that out.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and Michael and I have had conversations, I think, outside of the podcast around like propco opcos being kind of that, and franchises being a really good model for short-term rentals, at least as we don't have like a big name brand like a Marriott or a Hilton inside the industry fully. But I'm curious on the property management side, and I again was listening to your episode with Jamie Lane, and I heard a little bit about this, and so this kind of leads into a question around direct bookings and building a brand and kind of how you guys see that opco side, because when I checked out the website, I did see like it directs me to Airbnb, but then I heard on the episode that you guys have built out now a book direct platform. So how do you guys see that strategy, especially with this capital raise? You raised, I think it was at 18 million Series A with a debt facility of 50. So where's the two-part question, book direct, and then also the capital usage of the growth for what you guys envision?
So the debt facility obviously goes very cleanly into homes, right? That's sort of where the if you want to call it propco capital. I know some people use that interchangeably, debt facility with like propco equity, and there are real estate investors who will like plow money into the homes themselves. We have not pursued that track just yet. But on the other side, the opco, I think besides just marketing, G&A, and like continuing to grow the business, where we really invest is the two places that you mentioned. So we are putting forth our own direct bookings portal to go and like book the homes themselves. I'll come back to that. And then the other side of it is obviously the technology around the acquisitions data and sort of this estimate for short-term rental income, and really increasing the ability to accurately underwrite homes that are out there. So for example, like by the end of the year, we hope that all of our customers are getting sort of like Zillow-esque emails in their inbox every morning. So when Kelsey comes to me and says, I want an $800,000 home in this market with this type of short-term rental income, it's just going to hit your inbox every morning when something like that comes on, and creating more of a way to match just supply and demand, right? So we have a listings page up on our website with like browsable inventory that's out there, and you can transact with like predictive income on it as well. So trying to increase that. But coming back to your question around like direct bookings on Airbnb versus Airbnb, when we first launched the business, you have to think about where you're deploying your marketing dollars. And I think from a CAC perspective, I was more focused on getting buyers in the door and people who want to buy these homes, and not spending my marketing dollars trying to get people to book the homes. I thought about essentially using Airbnb as CAC, right? Like it's a massive eyeball aggregator. Millions and millions and millions of people look at it every day to book listings. I'm basically paying Airbnb fees as customer acquisitions costs to get in front of people, build a brand there, and build that level of trust. And I think when you're a small company like we were and are, growing into something bigger now, the first few customers, you're trying to just get them to trust you on a transaction, real estate, manage their property, whatever it may be. And it's really easy for us to go point to a third-party website and say like, hey, look, I'm not cooking any reviews on Airbnb. Like, go check out the hundreds of 5-star reviews we have across multiple properties right now, and the brand and network effects that come now with that, where people are coming back and looking for our listings, going to our portfolio, and actually messaging us directly now and saying like, hey, I've stayed in 3 or 4 of your properties. I'm really excited for your next one, your next launch, right? And the flywheel that comes with turning those people eventually into owners. So I think it's a great way to sort of build the trust initially as almost a third-party vetting. As we get more resonance, we'll continue to drive people directly to us.
Did you get the new Airbnb badge, the guest favorite?
We did. I was super excited about that.
Nice.
A bunch of our properties actually got that, so I was very excited to see that come out.
4.9, impressive.
Yeah, we put a lot of work in those 5-star reviews, but that's another value prop right there. It's we don't have like different profiles for each of our homes. It is one profile for all of our properties, and that's hard to do because if one property fails, you lose superhost status across all of them, right? But we're that confident again in driving that, and I think that's something we can point to all the time and say like, Michael, if you brought your home to us, I'll point to it and say we get our first booking within 24 hours of listing the home. You'll have a faster pathway to peak profitability, because when someone clicks on the profile of your home and they see us as a superhost and they see no reviews yet, but then they click into the profile and see dozens of 5-star extensive stays in other places, they're like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or this company, whatever, knows what they're doing. I'm more trusting to book this than Michael just newly listing his property and no reviews.
Airbnb's algorithm as a former product guy over there.
Exactly.
I get it.
Know a couple things.
And you're preaching Airbnb's thing, which is like onboarding new guests or new hosts, rather.
I mean, that was the crux of the idea in the first place. It's like Airbnb can't do this themselves. They're a marketplace. They don't want to touch anything operational or financial. I can help with that.
We'll have to save an Airbnb discussion for a part 2.
Yeah, I'd love that. Lots to talk about there.
So we always end with a quick rapid fire.
Okay.
So quick, short answers, if you don't mind. If you were buying in one market, where would you buy today?
Ooh, for me personally, or like best yield?
One of each.
Even harder. Okay. I'm a New Yorker, and I loathe the season that we're about to run into after Christmas, which is like the cold. So I would just go with Southeast Florida, like the Miami area. I'd love a place to go down there in the winter. So that's personal for me. In terms of like best yields we see right now, Hudson Valley Catskills, hands down, I think has been a real great market for a lot of different reasons for us and a lot of people.
Going to the Catskills for the first time in a few weeks. So,
where are you staying? If you need a place, let me know.
We'll talk afterwards. Beach or ski?
Beach. I like to ski, but I came into it too late in life.
Yeah, fair enough. Beer or wine?
Recently, wine. Red wine specifically. Can't do white.
All right, getting fancy. Okay, raise all that money and turn into.
Hey, you can have a good cheap red wine. Somehow I just get the headaches the next day from white. I don't know what it is.
I'm the same with red, so I have to do white or rosé.
See, yeah.
I'm the same with all wine. So,
well, I can drink all wine, so we can all have a glass together.
The Italian in you.
We should have done that for the recording.
I know.
We'll have our own wine of choice.
We stick to coffee. We've talked about wine evenings, but we stick to coffees in the morning.
Not wine mornings, yeah.
Yeah, if we do a late night show version of the show, we'll call you on for a wine night.
I'd love that. That would be great.
All right, last question from me. How high do interest rates go?
Ooh. This is one I think everyone's an amateur head of the Fed, right? I think we're there. I think maybe it's another quarter point. Fingers crossed. I think, and a lot of reasons, not just our business, right? Like there's a lot of people getting squeezed out there in various industries right now that are just feeling the heat. I know it's got to be done. I know we want to bring inflation down, but I think the job's been done at this point. I hope the job's been done. So I think we maybe got another quarter point, but I think it's more likely we see a hold into the early part of next year. And hopefully, I think we might see a quarter point drop before the end of 24. I think more than anything, we just need sentiment shift, right? In real estate, we just need people to think we're over the hump and like things are starting to slowly come down. I don't think we're gonna go back to 2%, but if we just start turning away from where we are now, I think that'll be a big difference for a lot of people.
We'll hold you to that prediction. We'll circle back.
I'll stand by that. I'd like that. Come find me next year, November 13th, 2024. Perfect. We'll see how accurate I was.
Done.
You heard it here first, everybody. We're gonna hold Paul to that. We'll have him back on in a year. But
do I get to be the head of the Fed if I'm right? That'll be my next job.
If you can predict that, then I think it's earned.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Paul, this has been a great episode for all of our live viewers. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you have any questions for Paul after this episode is done, feel free to send us a message. We'd love to share it with Paul and maybe get a nice little written up article or something about it. I think it would be fun to get the live interaction involved. But Paul, thank you so much. For all the listeners that are going to listen to this shortly after this live, where should we send people? Where can we have them come to you if they're interested in maybe becoming an owner or learning more about Summer and what you guys are building?
You can check us out at www.gosummer.com and follow us across all social media that's relevant: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, X, I should say, Facebook, Instagram, etc. TikTok now at Start Summering.
Awesome. And thank you again, Jeremy. You're a real OG. He's on like every episode, always comments and engages. So we love giving the shout outs there. But Brandy, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, Tiffany also commented this morning. Shout out to Tiffany, great friend of mine here in New Orleans. Got to see her twice while I was here, which was a real treat. So thank you for listening.
Awesome. Well, Paul, you're a legend. We're excited to follow the journey, and congrats on all the success and the raise. We're excited to see more news and press and all that stuff come from what you guys are doing. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Talk soon.
Of course.